Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and that's Cheaty McCheatface. She took a very long vacation to Nuka World where she lost what was left of her hair. Poor thing. We're here at Graygarden, and if you are familiar with my channel, you know that I like to tell stories with my settlements. And I always start that off with a walk around before doing any building or any scrapping. Only thing that I've done here so far is that Cheaty has killed the robots because she is a psychopath and doesn't like robots, even friendly ones. So, real world stuff that's going on. It's been a really long time since I uploaded anything, and for those of you that are still subscribed after all that time, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I had hoped to do some building in Fallout VR, but it turns out that building in Fallout VR is even more fiddly than building on consoles, and so here we are back on console. I am doing a survival playthrough. I am most of the way done with that, and I am maybe going to be doing some building again. So let's take a look at the build area here. It is completely square, and it's a decent size, but all of the ground that is level here is pretty much taken up by that greenhouse and this farm area, which you can't get rid of these plants here without putting something else in their place. Otherwise, those Mr. Handies have animations that play and they just are pruning and tending nothing. Other option would be, of course, to kill the Mr. Handies, but I wanted to keep them alive. The land starts to fall away over here, and my gosh, this is straight up a cliff. Like, there is not much that you can do here that is not really a struggle. Now, fortunately, we have this big freeway structure, and we can build on top of it with the help of a very convenient mod. We can put cable lifts up here, which means that we don't have to spend so much of our settlement budget on building some kind of gigantic elevator structure. So this is what the place looks like before we do anything to it. Without further ado, let's take a look at the completed settlement. We're wearing this sciencey outfit and a welding helmet because my roleplay and my story at this location is that this is where we build the signal interceptor for the main quest. In my game, the Minutemen and the Railroad are allied, and so this settlement is primarily a Minuteman front for the Railroad efforts to build the signal interceptor, which is why we have Deacon with us, but he is in disguise as a Minuteman. I didn't wall this settlement off because I was running low on settlement budget. Decorations here are fairly sparse, and that is for the same reason I couldn't afford to have a lot of crashes here, because otherwise I would have a hard time finishing the main game. So we're not going to do a complete settlement tour today. We're mostly going to concentrate on the advanced power features that this settlement has, hopefully to give you guys some ideas on things you can do in your own settlements. I covered some of this in my signal interceptor video, but I really rushed through it and I wanted to show some of this stuff off in more detail. I have mentioned before that I think lights on in the daytime looks unrealistic and bad, and so you can see that the lights on this boxcar are out. And let's go manipulate the time to be a little bit later. I downloaded this mod specifically for this video. I got to level 189 in my survival playthrough, and oops, I don't want that. I got to level 189 in my survival playthrough, and all it took was kind of playing carefully and maximizing intelligence. Turns out that was probably a mistake because the challenge kind of went away especially after level 100. Let's take a look here, and so now that it's later, we can see that the lights have turned on in this boxcar, but you can see that the spotlights are still off because exterior locations still have plenty of lighting. But one thing that I did want my spotlight turrets in particular to do was I wanted them to turn on after dark, and I also wanted them to turn on when it rains. So let's take a look at what happens when it rains. So let's go down here to rain, and you'll be able to see that those turrets turn themselves on automatically when it rains. There is a clock switch that I used for the timers and a rain sensor, both available in the Advanced Settlement Power mod that allow this. So just takes a couple of logic gates to make that happen and make it happen in a consistent way that I like. So there you go. Let's go take a look at one of the more secure areas of this place. Obviously I didn't wall off the whole settlement, but I did wall off the lift here and put a little guard station to protect the secure area. Also, there's my crane. I figured if we were going to be building big structures like that one up here, that we would want a crane to help lift materials up here. The reactor room is just a concrete box, which is fine. I did not want a complicated setup for this because, as it turns out, a concrete box is actually a pretty good radiation shield. I will kind of go back here behind the scenes a little bit for some of the noises that happen. I had to actually set up like 10 speakers, and I've got a bunch of logic gates back here that are essentially acting as diodes to keep from accidentally powering things I didn't want to power. I wanted the inside of the reactor room to look nice and clean, so I just kind of hid everything outside the walls in this area that you're really not supposed to go into. As I mentioned, decoration here is fairly sparse for a reason. Let's go inside through this door. Mentioned in my signal interceptor build that this reactor is salvaged from Vault 111. It's in bad shape. You can see there's a lot of smoke and sparks coming off of it. Added those with the Settlement Object Expansion Pack mod. Got just a few crates and boxes that someone should have cleaned up, some monitoring equipment. Thought it would be fun for my roleplay to have it so that when the reactor is just kind of barely ticking over, running the lights and turrets and things, that we would have these shutters open so that there would be some ventilation in here, and then we can close the shutters when we're really going to ramp up power and send power over to the job site and power up the signal interceptor. Put a warning tone on those, and it's easy to set it up to where those little speakers will activate when you power the door. It is a little bit harder to set it up to where with a single switch they make a sound when the door comes down, but it is just a couple of logic gates. Let's take a look at the main control panel. Also, we got some makeshift batteries here and some other electronics. Maybe they're charging those batteries off of the generator. I left myself a main switch, and that's important for being able to set up lights on different circuits. I did a tutorial on how to set up lights on different circuits. It's more complicated than just spacing out your power emitters, but you can actually have a light directly on top of another power emitter and still have it be off if you do things right. Like I said, I did a tutorial on that. Let's power up the mains again, and we'll turn off the turrets and the water and the main residential lighting, and turn on the power to the job site. So there is a warning siren that sounds when we power up the job site. Another thing I'll point out is I set up the decontamination arch to give us a little spritz every time we come out, just because in my mind, like when we're walking into that reactor room, we probably don't need to be decontaminated, but when we come out after working next to that dirty reactor, we probably want to get decontaminated. One last thing that I'll mention in here, because I nearly forgot, was that I have set these shutters to also close when there is bad weather. I didn't want to have rain or anything come in here and short this reactor out if there was a storm. So summon a rainstorm, the shutters close, and when the weather clears, the shutters will open and we get a little noise to notify us that that happened. Let's go look at the job site real quick, because that is another place where I assigned some lights to a different circuit. I wanted to be able to have all the residential lights in the settlement off and yet have the lights on at the job site as if we were going to be working on this this after dark in the dead of night, trying to escape attention from the Institute. So we've got some lights on inside here. You can see, for example, that monitor and that light is on, but these monitors are off, and up in the foreman's office, the lights are off up there as well. Or excuse me, on. So, don't know if you've ever had a job that was super intense in a crash program, but I have, and I did have a job where I would sometimes go to bed on a Wednesday and come back home on Wednesday, and having a cot there at the job site was a real lifesaver. Let's go turn the signal interceptor on. I thought that the legs of the signal interceptor were a tad bland, so I added some beta wave emitters in there to help spice things up again a little bit. So let's turn that on. See the fog roll out, that red klaxon light. The electricity comes out and the beta wave emitters turn on. I did leave myself a switch to turn those off just in case they were a problem. And I set everything on a delayed on switch so that the animations would kind of all sync up correctly. So you can see that the televisions there have turned on these monitors for the control equipment for the signal interceptor. And there you go. So I hope that somewhere in there you saw an idea that you thought might be fun for your own settlement. If you liked the video, maybe go take a look at my home plate to see an illustration of my lighting control scheme in a really compact space. And if you enjoy that, maybe subscribe. If you didn't like the video, please tell me why down in the comments so I can try and do better next time. Until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, and I'm saying it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.